Every few days, a celebrity or a public figure says something daft about autism online or on TV, and people like me get emails about it. Last week, our inboxes exploded after a man who has every reason and resource to know better stood on a stage and before millions of people told lies, half-truths and disproven nonsense about autism and autistic people. I'm Quinn, and I'm autistic, and this is Autistic. I'm not going to list all the ridiculous and outright dangerous things that were said from that podium. I'd be more than happy to, but it's already been done elsewhere. My friend Mike on over at Autistic AF did exactly that over the weekend, and it's well worth a watch if you want a lie-by-lie breakdown. There's another aspect of this story that I'm not seeing talked about nearly enough, though. The stated aim of all the plans announced and the controversial appointments made to achieve them is to make life better for autistic folks, or people with autism as they insist on calling us. But we already know that's not what will happen. What's been proposed will make life immeasurably harder for a lot of autistic people and everyone close to them, and risks wiping out decades of progress towards better futures for autistic folks. That's not an opinion or an ideological viewpoint. It's the voice of experience. This has all happened before, but unlike many of the other lessons from history currently looking relevant, you don't have to be in your 90s to remember the last time this one happened or the havoc it left in its wake. I speak, of course, of one of the most definitive battles of the autism wars to date, when Chaos General Wakefield led his measly anti-science army to a definitive and humiliating defeat at the hands of the combined forces of sense, logic, and the scientific method. When Andrew Wakefield unleashed his fabricated flood of intellectual diarrhea upon the world in 1998, it caused a lot of harm to autistic people and to our families, some of which never healed. Back then, we were on the crest of a wave of new autism diagnoses as the world woke up to the light of the autism spectrum. But that first wave was almost all children. So, for many of my autistic friends of the here and now, the scares and scandals that dominated the headlines then didn't concern them at the time. I'm not alone in having been a diagnosed autistic adult when it all kicked off, but there weren't many of us. I was in my late 20s, married, a homeowner with a dog and a cat and a mortgage, and now a diagnosis I dared not tell anyone about. I've talked on screen before about the chilling effect the film Rain Man had upon my life 10 years before that. I've lost count of the embarrassing incidents and awkward conversations caused by that film alone. It did so much damage to my relationships and my self-esteem that I had to reset my entire life. I did the chameleon thing and became someone else, figuratively speaking. I distanced myself from folks who knew about my diagnoses and stopped talking about it. By 98, I had a new circle of real-world friends and colleagues who didn't know I was autistic, but behind closed doors, I was an enthusiastic member of a growing online community of autists. In amongst chat about the ups and downs of our daily lives, there was a broad sense of optimism in the air for many of us. We shared exciting stories of friends who discovered a parent or a sibling was autistic too, or some positive representation of us in the media that we had to share. Promising research ideas were starting to materialise, and the idea that public understanding could catch up with our peculiarities enough that we could lead normal lives soon seemed possible. It didn't take long for Wakefield's lies to wreck most of that. Almost overnight, autistic people started to feel threatened. I was lucky enough to have the strength and skills to mask my way through most of those years undetected, but it scared the living daylights out of a lot of us, and I was no exception. For me, it put the kibosh on any ideas I had about coming out as autistic to my then wife and my new circle of friends and colleagues in the new town I'd moved to hundreds of miles from where I was born. In online communities, we'd started to wonder if it was time to start educating folks about our lives, to show them that autism isn't just about kids, to help build some kind of support network. But post-Wakefield, those joyful stories of growing acceptance were increasingly invaded by tales of targeted bullying and all new terms of abuse. The small but growing number of autistic adults abruptly found that doors that were previously opening up started slamming shut. For a good 3 years or more, I couldn't overhear, let alone engage in a conversation about autism without Wakefield and the controversy he caused being brought up, often accompanied by the usual unevidenced dogma. What a crippling and devastating condition it can be. Someone should do something about it. Won't you think of the poor children whose futures were stolen at age 2 by bad parenting, evil scientists, corrupt governments, greedy corporations, the deep state, depending on the fashion of the day. I spent too many of those years biting my tongue and walking away because I was too afraid to correct them and ruin the oasis of calm I'd worked so hard to build. I'd had to turn my back on who I am once before, and here I was doing it again for the same reasons, because of the same fears as before. I still ended up losing everything and had to start all over again anyway, but that's what being constantly scared does to you. It keeps you hiding because you don't know if you'll survive if you're found out. It's no way to live. That's before we even go into the impact it had on our parents. The source of all this controversy wasn't even introduced until I was already a full-fledged adult, but even my parents still felt a sense of guilt that they were somehow at fault. That's what panic like this does. Even if someone doesn't buy into the crap being sold, they still have not only that seed of doubt of guilt planted, they have the judgment and derision of other parents to worry about as well. Anti-science scaremongering about catastrophe, causes and cure is responsible for the 2 most disgusting and harmful lies about autism that have ever been circulated. The idea that autism is a tragedy on even a personal, let alone a societal level, blights all of us, but the implication that this fiction of affliction is somehow the fault of our parents? That's a cruel, vindictive, and entirely false burden to lay on someone's shoulders. Wakefield's lies tore families apart, often splitting autistic kids away from the undiagnosed parent that understood them best, or casting them into the care system. Some of my friends torment themselves to this day with misplaced guilt and blame for their parents' suffering. I've spoken to many of those parents since too, often after their own diagnosis. I've heard about the sideways glances from other mums in the playground after a teacher let slip that little Johnny is one of those kids. The way appointment books suddenly had no gaps after autism was mentioned. The surcharges and delays, the difficulties booking holidays and getting insurance, the constant need to correct and explain to people, the way nobody ever wants to talk about anything else once they find out about it, and the never-ending stream of armchair experts who all know more than you do about your own kid. Some sought solace in the bottle, or on a prescription pad, and I've met 2 autists, both quite a bit younger than me, who quite credibly believe that their father's choices to leave this life permanently and voluntarily were a direct result of the misplaced shame caused directly by Andrew Wakefield. In 1998, Wakefield unleashed a wave of suffering on me, my friends and family, on my whole community that still brings tears to my eyes today, over a quarter of a century later, and we were still mopping up that even before this latest tsunami of bilge hit us last week. That was a lot of people and a lot of pain for no gain. But there's something else for you to think on. Back in 1998, the estimated prevalence of autism was around 1.56 kids per 10,000, or 1 in every 6,500 children born. Now, it's 1 in 31, a statistic the very same politician that started this last week used on that stage to scare us all. That's 200 times the number of autistic kids, 200 times more parental battlefields, 200 times the broken families, 200 times the children that lose a parent or end up in care, 200 times the bullying those kids will suffer, 200 times the unnecessary pain and suffering of 27 years ago magnified by the power and vitriol of a mature and barely regulated internet. And for what? So, some flip-flopping politician can keep a handy crusade in his back pocket to draw attention away from the rest of his failures? Or those families that will be utterly destroyed, millions of lives ruined, not by autism, but by one man's need to look important? Why bring all that pain back at all? Have we learned nothing, not only from all those studies that already settled the very questions being asked, but from the misery and suffering caused last time? How many shameful histories do you want to see repeated? Or have we had enough already? No matter what new discovery is declared in September, whatever proof is claimed for it, we already know it'll be hogwash. The world is not the same place it was in 1998, and we're not as naive anymore. There may be 200 times as many people who could be hurt by this. That's also 200 times the size of the army of reason ready to fight back. We're not alone either anymore. Not now. Back in 98, most people just shrugged and accepted the lie. They didn't know any better because autism was just that thing from that movie with Tom Cruise and that bloke from Tootsie, if they'd heard of it at all. But a few days ago, when all this kicked off, I saw something quite remarkable. I watched the first great victory of neurodiversity as it happened. You see, I saw lots of posts, blogs and videos from the people you'd expect. Autistic creators, like me, autism charities, maybe the odd celeb, but that wasn't all. I saw posts everywhere, including videos on YouTube, from creators who never, ever talk about autism usually, but were outraged enough to speak out now. Some of them happen to be autistic themselves. Others are in relationships with autists or have autistic family and friends. Others are ADHD and know how close they are to an autism diagnosis themselves, so they felt the need to express their horror, their fears. Plus, all the proper news outlets, the ones that I saw at least, ones that have to report facts, not just opinions, reported on the speech as just another in a long list of incomprehensible, inhumane anti-science initiatives and raised awkward questions regarding the motives behind it. I heard comedians from all over the world having audiences rolling in the aisles at their gravelly impressions, because if you see past the tragedy of all this, it's bloody hilarious. If the definition of stupid really is to keep doing something that's failed every time before, then no wonder people are laughing at the fool that said it and even more at the fools that repeat it. Back in 1998, the media were falling over themselves to ask questions about Wakefield's assertions, whilst the ignorant and the scared talked of no smoke without fire. But it all blew up in their faces. It was not only proven to be a lie back then, it's been re-proven over and over again, and most people know that. Politicians and wannabe gurus can shout at autism windmills all they want, but the genie's already out of the bottle. Anyone can see the families with autism in every generation, and as understanding and access to information grows, that trend will only expand. Yes, one man, even a whole administration on a quixotic crusade may well make life difficult for a lot of people, especially in their home country. But the rest of the world won't change to follow his whim, because we already know the truth, beyond any reasonable doubt. It's right to be angry right now, and it's right to fight back. We need everyone with a voice to raise it and keep the focus on facts and truth over fear and lies. But that doesn't mean we all have to go out and hold placards in the street, harangue our representatives in town halls, or write letters to the papers. All that is vital, and we need people doing that, but we're autistic. We understand that not all of us can do that, and even those that usually can may not have the spoons to do it right now. But we can all do our bit just by showing people that we're not what we're being made out to be. Watch a few videos, read a few blogs, arm yourself with the facts. Know the true consequences of moral panic about autism. Listen to the stories of lives that were destroyed the first time this evil lie caught on. But also, check out the statistics and remember the ones that matter just in case they come in handy. Mike's video I mentioned earlier is actually a good start on that. For my part, I'm not geared up to respond to every new development in the news, and I don't have the fire or the fitness to fight on the front lines, but I still have my part to play. For 40 years, ever since I was diagnosed in the mid-80s, I've been trying to make sense of what being autistic actually means in this day and age, and for the last 6 or 7 years, I've been making videos about what I've learned on this channel. But there's one very important lesson I've learned that I've only mentioned in passing before. For the last 3 months, I've been creating a series introducing and explaining the framework that allows me to make sense of what being autistic means in this world and how to manage the unique stresses we encounter every day. I've mentioned the autistic triad of distinction a few times, but I've not explained exactly what it is, how it works, and how it can make our lives easier. In total, I've put together nearly 100 minutes of completely new material explaining the triad of distinction from its origins right up to its present-day practical application. On Friday coming, 2nd of May, I'll be launching the first of 3 new videos over 3 days, part 2 on the Saturday and part 3 on Sunday. Altogether, making a thorough and, I hope, enlightening and entertaining introduction to the framework that cracked it for me and gave me control of so much in my life that others would deny me. Whilst others who can, should, and probably do know better do their best to spread chaos and misery to all autistic people and the people who care about us, and have the gall to claim it's in our interests, the most constructive thing I can do is not let myself get distracted from the positive work I've always tried to do here. I'm not going to think twice and wait for all this to blow over before I go public with the triad of distinction. The triad has been profoundly enlightening and liberating for those I've shared it with so far, so I can't think of a better time to get it out there doing some good. The whole trilogy is already available for my supporters over on Patreon, and everybody else will get to see it starting on Friday. Whilst politicians may paint targets on our backs and bigots may line up to take a kick, the best ally we have is the truth. I'll keep putting it out there as long as I have breath. I'm Quinn, and I'm autistic, and I'll see you in a few days for something I hope you'll find truly special. Thank you for watching. If you've already liked and subscribed and would like to support the channel more, then please follow the Patreon links in the description to pledge what you feel is fair and affordable to help keep the lights on here and the content keep flowing.